Hello, this is the first video of several videos discuss about a digital twin using Autodesk Revit. So basically the idea is you transfer a BIM model from Revit using Datasmith into Unreal. And there you can transfer the metadata which accompanied with the geometry. Also, on the other side, you're going to transfer the sensor-based data, for example, humidity, temperature, captured from the from the physical environment, and then push that data into the digital twin. So digital twin is both three-dimension geometry plus metadata as well as the sensor data. This tutorial is actually based on a few other tutorials. The first one you want to watch is this approach. Very basic workflow about Revit into digital twin. Another two tutorials I would like to recommend to watch before you watch this one is metadata transfer from 3ds Max to Unreal and metadata from Rhino to Unreal. As you can see, these two tutorials basically using the same template. So the Barney model is the sculpture we used to demonstrate transfer the metadata. And in this tutorial, I like to cover how to do this through Revit. So it's Revit metadata into VR, into Unreal. Okay. So before we start, I just want to show you a few other approach we taught before is transfer files through FBX instead of Datasmith. So there's the pros and cons. You can refer to that old tutorials to discuss about the reason why we use Datasmith. The primary reason is it will carry information like properties, categories, families of the geometry. So we are gonna use the virtual depth as example. As you can see here, the model. We have the section box turned on. So if I turn off, you can see this is actually the entire depth. It's pretty big. The reason we want to do a section box is just to make the file smaller, so it's not drag down the performance. Okay, so we have this section box applied. Let me just undo since I want to just carve a small portion of the section box. Okay. All right, so this is that Revit model. Then we transfer that model into Unreal. I just want to show you the final result before we break down, talk about steps. So here you can see the Barney model. This is from the earlier template. You can still see these sensors right here. Also, we have this Pong, this robot, which can be the third person, capture, navigate through the environment. And here is that section box based virtual depth model. And here you can see the depth cafe here, grand stairs, right? So now if I run this really quick, you can see the Barney model here. But if I use my mouse left drag, you can see the virtual depth here. If I use middle view, I can zoom in, zoom out. So this is just like a typical 3D navigation, right, from first person view. And also here I can go ahead, click the sensors, and then you can see the information pop up. Right? This has been discussed in the earlier tutorial with 3ds Max. Same thing here. And then if I press M, I can switch to third person view. I can see the robot here, and then I can let the robot navigate through the virtual depth. Right? So here I can go in. I can see the depth cafe. Okay, and I can navigate to other place, for example, grand stairs. And here you probably have to jump because we carved these stairs a little bit. So here I will jump, and here you can navigate. Okay, so this is the grand stairs. Then I will talk briefly how this is done from Revit into Unreal. Okay. So first, the Revit, I'm using an older version, I think it's 2020, and I installed the Datasmith export. If you Google this, you can find it in Unreal website. Basically, Datasmith is a interface allow you to save a Revit model into a special Datasmith format, and later you can bring into Unreal. And also the reason I did a section box is I want to make the model smaller. This is highly recommended if you have a huge model, you don't want to, drag down the performance, just using a section box. Okay, in Revit, you can turn on the section box here. Then you can manipulate by dragging these arrowheads. So this model, if I drag a selection, actually, you can sort of see how many models you have. If I see all the information in the filter, right, this is the filter, you basically have roughly 2,507 objects. So this is a really large number of objects. Usually I will filter the information based on which one I want to bring into Unreal. So for instance, I don't really care about this original 2D floor plan. This is the DWG. So you can maybe turn off these DWG files. You can also check other information. In some cases, you only need a wall or need a roof. You can exclude other objects. So here, I will just simply do check none, and then I will check the DWG file first, just one DWG, hit apply. So basically, I selected that DWG file. Then here in the hide button, I can choose hide category. So basically, I turn off all the DWG files from the view. This could be a really nice way, just to quickly filter something you don't need. So now, if I drag a selection, you won't be able to see the DWG file in the selection anymore. Right? So that's just one way you can somehow exclude information you don't need from the export. Okay, but still 3,000 objects is a pretty large number, right? The benefit to using FBX or transfer to motion, even though you can reduce the draw call. However, because we're going to transfer this into Unreal, carry the metadata, the properties of each objects, so we cannot really, union them together. So that is the problem. Okay. So here I will just simply turn off the DWG file. I don't know why it's not being turned off. Interesting. But anyway, you got a point. I'm also gonna turn off the selection for. I don't really need a section box be selected, right? So everything else I want to have selection. Hit apply. Then you see you have 2,500 objects selected. Click OK. Then I'm going to export this as a Datasmith. Okay, so I will do export, and I give a name. Okay, so that's how you transfer the file from the Revit into Datasmith. The next thing I'd like to talk quickly is what is Datasmith. So here, if I check the file, right, you can see the first Datasmith file has been exported. It always has a folder accompanied with it. So here this V3 Datasmith, right? So here you can see the V3 Datasmith asset. Right? And you can see basically you have 1,300 items accompanied with that Datasmith file. So this information is actually include the properties and other features in Revit. For instance, if I, for example, select the roof, and here in the properties, you will see the dimension values. You can see which level is associated with facing, other information might be relevant. So when you transfer to Datasmith, this information is actually being carried into Datasmith. All right. So that's the reason I'm thinking this, Datasmith is important. You get both 3D model and metadata. Then in Unreal, usually I will create a new folder. You can do here adding a new folder, right? Since I already did, and here in the new folder you can, import the Datasmith. Usually you want to do is make sure, since we already have this in the current scene, right? So if you bring in another Datasmith, it's going to automatically show up in a gallery as well as in a map. So it will show up in the source and the level at the same time. Okay, so let's do that. I will go ahead, input Datasmith. I'm going to link to this guy. Right, so this is the version 2. This name is actually not a good one because you have this dot, 2 dot in the middle, but that's all right. I think we can try. All right, so I want to put this one directly under that, right? And click OK. I don't really care about the lights, cameras, animations. Disable that and import. Okay, so this will bring in that couple of thousand geometries as assembling into Unreal. So here I have this version 3.2 right here. At the same time, on the level, you can see these new objects show up. So if you make the selection of the root, you can actually see the manipulator. You can move this around. So this is a new version we just brought in. Okay, and in this new folder is created. You can see the geometries, materials, textures. Right, so everything's here. The reason you see there's hundreds of columns because each column actually has its own property, right? So that's the reason if you double click, you can actually see this is that single column. It has its own properties, right? Yeah, so everything is carried directly into Unreal. In fact, if you pick any objects, right, in this new collection, in the properties, at the bottom of the property, you should be able to see information like user data. Under the user data, you have Datasmith user data. And here you can unfold. It gives you this 34 values and types. This is actually identical to Revit. Okay, so this is the beauty about Datasmith. I carry this information in. Another thing you probably want to do is once you have this model in, if you just simply play, right? I can see this new version here. If I use my left mouse click, right mouse, that information is automatically loaded into this interface. So we already pre-programmed an interface to extract information. So it's pretty handy. I don't have to write any code. Just right click, it gives you that list of information. This is the wall, and if I go to the stair, you can see this is the stair. Okay, so it's really beautiful. However, if I switch to third-person view and trying to navigate, where's the new one? Okay, this one is new. You will see the robot is not able to climb or interact with the geometry. You can basically walk through it, see, without a collision. Right? The reason is these models come in as a default geometry. There's no collision. You can penetrate the floor. So the quick way to set up a collision is by selecting all the pieces. You can holding Shift, select all the pieces in the library, and then right-click, choose Actions, Asset Actions, and you do the bulk property matrix. Right. So here you can actually check one value called collision. And by default, the collision is the project based, but I want to use this as complex collision as simple. Okay, so this is basically set this couple of thousand objects property all together. So once you do that, this will take a few probably minutes to actually just 1 minute to sync this changing. Once you do that, you can close this window, right? So this is all being changed. Then I will do a save all, just make sure this new set of geometry will be saved safely into the current project. Okay, so let's wait a second. Okay, so we have probably 1,355 items, right? This is not the most efficient way to run in real time, but we have to because you want the property be individually independent from each other. Now if I play, the robot should be able to interact with the floor. So here if I go, right, I think you can jump. You cannot go through this wall because it's too short, but we can jump here. So we have a floor. Yep, here we go. So we can interact with the floor. Okay, so that's a nice thing about have a correct collision. All right, I think that's it about this basic introduction for bringing a Revit model into Unreal. Then you can have the metadata associated with it. Since I already did that, I will just simply delete this version because I have one building there already. The quick way to delete anything you don't need. So let me use W to navigate first. Make sure I pick the right one to delete. I think this is the one I want to delete. Right. So here is a list of objects. If you go all the way up, you can see here are the group nodes. So you have depth vision 3, and this is the new one. To delete this, I think you can just unfold first, and then holding Shift, make sure you select the last item in this list. Right. So that's the wall 6. So holding Shift. So basically, you select every single items within that group. Then I will right-click, edit. I will choose delete. Okay. So this will erase all of them from the level. Right. So this is a clean delete. Right. You still have this original one here. Yeah, this is the version 3. So that's already still here. Also, just to keep things clean, you don't really need this new folder. I just export it right from Revit. So what I will do is I will delete this one as well, just to make it really clean. Okay, so this will take probably a couple of minutes. I think that's it. This is how to bring a Revit model with BIM information, right? Then transfer into Unreal and make it interactive with the current template.